Hey YouTube viewers, today we're going to compare the Smith & Wesson Model 629 and the Ruger Redhawk. If you like what you see on the channel, please do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe. Thanks. I owned a Smith & Wesson Model 629 years ago, maybe 20 years ago almost, and foolishly sold it. And I found myself recently trying to get back into shooting .44 Magnum. And in my quest, my shopping, I started looking at the Redhawk and the 629, two kind of obvious choices to get into shooting .44 Mag, I think. And they're pretty much in the same ballpark as far as price goes and features go and some of the specs. I was having a tough time deciding between the two, honestly, so I made the only logical choice and just got both. Kidding aside, I was really looking for the differences in how the guns felt, honestly. Trigger pull, how it felt in your hand, the weight, the balance, how the hammer felt to cock, how the smoothness of the cylinder rotating out, everything that had to do with feel on the gun. That was really the biggest factor that I was interested in. So that's what I'll do my best in this video to describe how the triggers feel, how everything feels on the gun, how they feel in your hand. I'm going to do some trigger pull weights, put these guns on the scale, and talk about just how they feel in my hands. Hopefully that'll help somebody out. When I got them on the scale, I was actually a little bit surprised. I thought I had read somewhere that the Ruger was quite a bit heavier than the Smith & Wesson, but it turns out the 4-inch Ruger is a little bit lighter than the 6-inch Smith, so again, I was a little bit surprised. Now for the important question, what about the triggers? So disclaimer, two 629s could be completely different from each other. Similarly, two Ruger Redhawks could be completely different. So what we're comparing here is the two guns on the table. As you can see, my 629 breaks between 11 and 12 pounds. And that's for double action, of course. The double action pull on my Redhawk somewhere around the 9-pound mark. Additional observations on these two triggers. I think this Ruger's been shot quite a bit, and I don't think that Smith & Wesson was shot very much before I got it. So those variables could play into this equation too. The results of the single action trigger pulls turned out quite differently. The Smith & Wesson breaks somewhere in between, right in the middle, between 2 and 3 pounds. And the Redhawk breaks between 4 and 5. You can definitely tell the difference when shooting them on single action mode, but I wouldn't say the Ruger is hard to shoot with a 4-pound trigger break. Overall, both guns are really a pleasure to shoot. Fun fact, same speed loader works for both guns. That's cool. Okay, now time for the subjective part, the hurt feelings part. So if you're emotionally tied to either one of these, you should just go now, because I'm going to probably insult something that you like. I guess first let's talk about smoothness. So smoothness, I mean, when I push on the cylinder latch, how easily the cylinder comes out and the cylinder turns and the hammer cocks and the trigger pulls and all the mechanical functions that the gun does. I think the Ruger is smoother. Hands down. The cylinder latch, the way the cylinder comes out to the side. Again, maybe the gun's just more broken in, maybe it's not. But the Smith is a little bit tighter. The cylinder, there's less cylinder wobble on it. So is what it is. So the Ruger, I think the Ruger is a little bit smoother. It feels the functions just work a little bit nicer on it. Next, let's talk about shootability. So for shootability, I consider both the double action trigger pull, the single action trigger pull, and also how the gun feels in your hands. I guess that's kind of dependent on the grips, but I'll just compare these two for how they are right now set up. So for double action trigger pull, you saw the trigger pull weights. The 629 breaks between 11 and 12 pounds, and it feels every bit of it. It feels kind of heavy, but with a little bit of practice, it's relatively doable to hit smallish targets with it. As if you watch my 629 video, you'll see me ringing a 12-inch plate at 25 yards pretty repeatedly, so it's doable. Double action trigger pull on the Redhawk was between 9 and 10 pounds, just over 9 pounds, somewhere in there. But the Ruger's definitely easier to shoot double action because of the lighter trigger. It almost feels like it's a little bit less of distance for the trigger to break as well. So it just feels like an easier gun to shoot with a full double action trigger pull. For me, again, subjective, but that's what it feels like to me. Similarly, the Smith is easier to shoot on single action. So I guess it depends on philosophy of use, which gun would fit you better. If you want a gun to carry in the woods and maybe yank out of a holster and squeeze double action shots off at a charging predator, maybe the Ruger's for you. You want to shoot steel, take your time and aim and have that nice light single action trigger pull, maybe the Smith's for you. But honestly, the difference between a double action trigger pull that's 9 pounds and 12 pounds isn't going to make or break you. If you can shoot the 9-pound trigger well, you're probably going to be able to shoot the 12-pound trigger well, because it's about self-discipline, honestly, and training. You can get yourself just as proficient with either gun. So I think my choice to carry in the woods is obviously the Ruger, though, because it can handle hotter ammunition as well, because they're supposedly made stronger than the Smiths. So that, coupled with the fact that the advantage of a little bit lighter and smoother double action trigger, makes it an easy choice for carry in the woods. Plus it's a little lighter, a little shorter, easy to get out of the holster. Just makes more sense for carry in the woods. Speaking of that, I picked up some of the Underwood 340 grain plus P plus ammo that's moving around 1,500 feet per second. Supposedly that's pushing 1,500 foot-pounds of muzzle energy at the muzzle, which is definitely pushing into 454 Casull muzzle energy and velocity range. I shot them out of the Ruger, and they're honestly not that bad. They're made out to be way worse than they actually are, recoil-wise anyway. I'm not even going to touch accuracy because both of these guns are from reputable manufacturers. They're both high-quality guns, and they're both going to be much more accurate than you or I can probably make them perform anyway. Overall, I'm a huge fan of both guns. I don't think you can go wrong with either. I think you should just decide what your philosophy of use is and maybe get one based on that. But again, both guns can fit both roles, so I think you win with either one. Thanks for checking out my channel, viewing my video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. Have a nice day.